Now, yesterday, House Republicans unveiled the American Health Care Act, the supposed replacement for Obamacare, and both sides of the political spectrum are up in arms. Progressives like me, of course, point out how this is an incredibly draconian piece of legislation and basically an enormous giveaway to very, very wealthy people. Basically, it's only going to benefit the rich and younger people in their 20s. So, okay. Now, conservatives, however, on the other side, think that this bill is not draconian enough. In fact, some of these outside groups are up in arms for this bill not screwing the poor enough. This is according to The Hill. The Club for Growth, a big conservative group, dubbed this proposal RyanCare and threatened to record names of Republicans who vote for this unless it includes significant changes. Now, what changes would those make? Basically, to make it even more conservative. Because, of course, not fucking over the poor, they're not obviously fucking over the poor enough in this piece of legislation. And I talked about what's in it yesterday. Now, you also have Heritage Action, FreedomWorks, and the Koch brothers backed Americans for Prosperity, all issuing statements that are highly critical of this piece of legislation. In fact, FreedomWorks called it Obamacare Light, while the AFP labeled it Obamacare 2.0. In fact, you had AFP President Tim Phillips in an interview with The Hill said, quote, "This is simply not a full repeal of Obamacare. It falls far short of the promises Republicans made to the American people in 4 consecutive federal elections." He also says that the proposed legislation trades one form of government subsidy for another government subsidy and doesn't roll back the mandate of Obamacare. It's a poor first attempt. So basically, they're complaining, well, you didn't get rid of the individual mandate, and you're giving poor people too much money. I mean, sure, it's not a subsidy anymore. It's a tax break. We don't even want to give them that for buying insurance. No. Fuck them. Poor people don't matter. We're the only ones that matter. Have you got the memo yet? Apparently not. And look, on this, if you get rid of the subsidies and you get rid of the tax breaks, as these right-wing groups want to do, well, how the fuck are you supposed to afford insurance? Well, the answer is you're not. Unless you're rich. If you're rich, great. So maybe their answer is just be rich. Oh, God, if I only we would have figured that out before. No, these groups, look, they're not going to be happy until 100% of the benefits of any healthcare legislation go to the wealthiest Americans and poor people are left without insurance. I mean, sure, they'd be fine if poor people could afford insurance on their own, but any federal money or any federal help going to the poor people is unacceptable to them. 100% unacceptable. And this bill, which is wildly conservative to begin with, the most conservative healthcare plan in the world, is still not conservative enough for the Koch brothers and their paid shills in Congress. And I'll actually get to some of them in a few minutes. Now, The Hill notes that assuming all members vote and all Democrats vote no, it would still take 22 House GOP defections to kill this piece of legislation, which has the White House's support. Just 3 Republican votes could sink this legislation in the Senate. Now, of course, on that, you do also have hacks like Joe Manchin on the Democratic side that might actually vote for this bill. So you might not need as many, GOP members if you have these reliably conservative Democrats supporting this piece of legislation. As for the Republicans, I mentioned yesterday Rand Paul is against this piece of legislation because it's not draconian enough, and Mike Lee joins him. They are against this plan already. You also have former House Freedom Caucus Chairman Jim Jordan and conservative representatives Justin Amash and Dave Brat also against this. Now, of course, again, these are the people that believe that this is not conservative enough. However, there is a group of 4 Republican senators that think it's too conservative. This is interesting. You have Rob Portman, Shelley Moore Capito, Cory Gardner, and Lisa Murkowski that are also not backing this piece of legislation, but not because it's too liberal, In fact, they said they oppose it because it gets rid of the Medicaid expansion that has actually helped the poor people in their states. So they actually say, well, we want to keep this because it helps the poor. We don't want to completely fuck over our poor population. So no, we're going to be against this. And I actually want to give them a little bit of credit. And right now, look, we already have the most conservative plan, and it's called ObamaCare. This plan is more right-wing. The plan that's coming is even more right-wing than Obamacare and is a disaster. And it hasn't even been implemented yet. And it hasn't even been scored by the CBO. You know why? It's because Republicans don't know how to pay for it. All the taxes that went to paying for this have been repealed. Get rid of the taxes. No, we're going to save the rich people all the money. And then we're going to pay for it with what? Fairy dust? That's their plan. So anything, like if this passes, this is going to leave a gigantic hole in the budget while only helping the incredibly rich. And yet that is not even enough for them. These far right-wingers have to kick poor people even harder so they can give that money over to their wealthy donors. And that's what's going on here. Look, I understand the irony of having to defend a right-wing plan against an even more right-wing plan, but this is where we're at here in America. It's insanity. Maybe we should have, fought for a public option back when we were trying to pass Obamacare. Maybe that would have actually made a difference. But, of course, couldn't do that because, well, the Democrats, you know my stance on the Democrats, so incredibly weak and spineless on this issue. Incredibly weak. This is crazy, man. You know, we're the only country in the world that doesn't promote universal health care. Why? Well, it's because of the donors. We don't have single-payer health care because of the rich paying in money in politics. These wealthy donors, these wealthy corporations, they buy off congressmen to be their shills and make it so that we are unable to actually cover everyone in America, which we can do. We're the richest country in the world. And we have the economy of scale on our side. We can make something like this work. I mean, they never ask about how we're going to pay for another war in the Middle East. How we're going to pay for these giant tax cuts that we're going to give to wealthy people. No, they don't ask how we're going to pay for that. But you want to actually cover people with health insurance? Oh, can't do that. Costs too much. No, it's ridiculous. They don't care about the cost at all. It's all about how can we continue to make a buck off healthcare. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.